Hey y'all, Cosmic here. This is my first video in a very long time, so welcome if you're new. I'm not really sure what I want to do with my channel as of right now, but depending on how this video does, we'll see. I'm going to split this video into a couple parts of differing length, because this game is long. And I would love to see if people are interested in watching before I make an hour-plus length video that might flop. Enough about me though. Metaphor is a pretty new game, and as such, I really haven't seen much in the way of challenge runs. In addition, the game's already existing hardest difficulty is flawed fundamentally, so I thought it'd be a fun challenge to make it truly the hardest. I'll explain a bit later as to what I've done. In this first video, I'll cover from the beginning of the game to right before the Grand Cathedral, so this part probably won't be as long as the others. Also, this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, but expect major spoilers for pretty much the entire game. If you haven't played the game yet, what are you doing? This game is amazing. Otherwise, welcome my fellow enthusiasts. That's all for the intro, but before we begin, I'd love it if you all like, subscribe, and/or comment, because any feedback you have for me would be greatly appreciated. From here on out, I might even try to stream this challenge live on my Twitch channel, at twitch.tv/cosmicrick2763. Let me know in the comments if you guys would be interested in seeing that. Oh yeah, I'm writing the script as I go along with the playthrough, so keep that in mind. Hope you all enjoy. There's nothing of note for this challenge in the beginning, aside from the basic intro stuff, so I'll pretty much skip the stuff that happens here. I name our MC Cosmic, after me, and make an incredibly important decision. You see, you weren't actually told this, but you're given an array of dialogue options that are seemingly normal. However, each of these options actually corresponds to one of your stats, and will start you off with a few extra points in it. So for this challenge, and for reasons you'll see shortly, I make sure to go with magic. It's by far the most important stat for the main character, because not only is it super helpful in the early game, but you don't get an actual magic-based teammate until your 5th party member. That's about 2/5 of the way through the game. Anyways, that's pretty much all for the introduction section, so let's move on. As we're being recruited, we meet this handsome young gentleman named Stroll, and we receive our gear from the recruiter. After a quick night's rest, we're off to the fortress for our first mission. We get the battle tutorial here, and I suppose now is a good time as any to explain the challenge at hand. It's pretty simple. In base metaphor, Regicide is a difficulty not too far off from Persona 5's Merciless difficulty, where your party takes triple damage from crits or weaknesses, and you deal 80% of the damage you would on normal. On top of that, you take 1.75 times the damage, and you're also more likely to be inflicted with anxiety. The cherry on top, which is carried over from hard difficulty, is that in every non-boss battle, the enemy team gets an extra turn icon on their turn. So why is Regicide so disappointing as a difficulty? It's because you can only do Regicide on New Game Plus. Therefore, every single one of your archetype levels, money, mag, including all of your items and equipment, and royal virtues, aka your social stats, are carried over from your completed save. This leads to the difficulty being completely trivial up until the very end game, since you've effectively got endgame gear from the start. So what have I done to make things actually difficult? I've effectively removed the New Game Plus requirement for Regicide, meaning I can actually experience it from a new save file without being carried to the end of the game for free. Sure, it might not be the most difficult challenge, but this game is already pretty brutal when enemies aren't doing triple damage for every weakness hit or crit, effectively forcing me to actually think in my strategy JRPG. Anyways, let's just move on. More so than in the regular game, I'm going to need to grab everything. Early on, money is incredibly scarce, and any damage taken is more money wasted. So anything I can easily sell or use to heal will be crucial. MP restoratives are even more precious, but luckily, that becomes less of an issue after the first dungeon. For now though, I can't afford to use any, unless it's absolutely necessary. When you level up, you get to choose an extra stat point to apply. If it wasn't obvious already, I'll be shoving nearly every point I can into magic, because the less turns it takes to kill an enemy, the less MP consumed, and the less risk of me getting one shot. I grab everything in the fort and kill everything I can. And that's everything. It's on to the boss.
Damn. Such tremendous power. This dog is... Wait, what the fuck? What's going on? I'm scared! Who the fuck is...
Yeah, this boss is basically just scripted. Just spam psych and heal, and then you basically just win. We meet up with Grius after leaving that stupid ass place and set up camp before catching some Z's. Wake up in wherever the hell this place is and meet more. He explains to us the power of archetypes before proceeding to start our first bond with him. We wake up and head to the next point of interest. On the Nord Forest Trail, we unlock the ability to outright kill enemies on the field without entering a battle. This is pretty much single-handedly the savior of this run, as we can effectively get free XP, money, and mag, without having to waste our precious HP and MP. Also, it removes the chance of being ambushed, which, with the crazy power of the enemies, we'll probably be screwed if we do get ambushed. Luckily, when you're the one doing the ambushing, the enemy's first turn is usually fully skipped, unless you're unlucky and hit them out of it randomly. This is the best way to do things, because even though you can't retry the battles over and over to ensure that everyone dies before you can take them out of stun, it's super helpful to be able to wipe them out before you can take any hits regardless. On our way through, we're waylaid by some soldiers that were following us, and we get to see what happens when we do let the enemies actually hit you. You literally have to guard here, else you'll die instantly due to them hitting your weakness. Otherwise, we take them out no problem, and move on to the first dungeon in the game, Nord Mines. This place is where we really get to see how dangerous enemy battles are. But first, we find our good old friend and recruiter, Kingler. No, it's not Klinger, fuck you. And he's here to make sure we're dead for some reason. Stroll has a bit of PTSD about his village being fucking razed by a human, and he awakens to his archetype, the warrior.
You call this real? Leaders abandon their people and the innocent die by their scorn. If that's the real world, then it can die alongside you!
Naturally, after ripping his own heart out of his chest, he uses it like a microphone, and then we get to wail on Kingler until we kill him dead. Again, since this fight is basically part of the archetype tutorial, it's pretty damn easy. All he does is has his goons buff him up and then spam fire attacks, which Stroll happens to resist. I, however, do not resist them, and immediately get one-shot by a mage fire, forcing me to waste my one and only revival herb that I had. After removing the excess mages, we pretty much mop the floor with him, as long as I keep guarding. Nothing else required. After the fight, we dap Stroll up and unlock his bond, and we get zooped into Academia again to say hi and more. We unlock the ability to swap our archetypes at will, and at the same time we unlock the mage through beginning our bond with Gallica. This archetype is going to be crucial for the early game, since it has great elemental coverage, and when equipped to MC, your party restores 1 MP per enemy killed on the battlefield. This is pretty insane, and will save me an unbelievable amount of stress managing MP in these first few dungeons, as the Grand Cathedral is one of, if not the longest dungeons in the entire game. It puts loads of strain on your MP reserves. We put Warrior on Grius, and slap Mage onto our MC as soon as I get enough mag to. From the conveniently placed merchant at the entrance of Nord Mines, we spend practically all of our money grabbing some gear and all 5 ice chunks available for purchase. You'll see in a bit why I bought them, don't worry. Unfortunately, since money is super tight early on, we can't fully gear up yet. However, we should be fine for now with what we have. Heading into the dungeon, we're immediately struck with our first problem. The enemies here suck. The slimes resist physical, which wastes tons of MP, and the snakes need to be killed ASAP lest they overpower you. On top of this, I need to be careful not to get ambushed by anybody, lest I take tons of damage or even wipe. Thankfully, I managed to avoid getting ambushed at all throughout the dungeon, only taking a little bit of damage from a slime that I knocked out of stun. Oh yeah, don't bother fighting the worms here if you value your sanity. You'll miss some XP, but it's really not worth it. After a quick jaunt through the mines, picking up every single piece of gear and healing that I can, we make it to our first safe room, where we can save our game or go to Academia. There's a merchant here as well, who I ignored to save money. The safe room happens to be right at the end of the dungeon, so I basically head straight to our first actual boss. This boss is nothing crazy. It mostly serves as a tutorial for swapping between the front and back lines. It'll make it pretty obvious when he's attacking the front row. He'll just fall back and he'll miss. He also likes to double his attack and defense, which quickly spells doom for my poor MC, who doesn't resist bot and loses pretty much all of his health. I didn't bother to buy any revival items, so things quickly fell apart, and I received my first loss of the run. That's a little embarrassing. I reload my previous save and make sure to buy some revival items. And also, I actually make sure to have Blizz unlocked on my main character before coming back from round 2. This time, it's super easy, since I remember that guarding actually exists. We fell the goofy-ass human, destroy the Magma Crystal it's protecting, and move on with our lives. Unfortunately, that isn't the real boss I'm worried about for this dungeon. The real challenge lies in the optional dragon fight that you can do at the very end, which guards a really powerful weapon that we'll need to grab if we want to stand a chance at the Grand Cathedral. This boss is the real threat of this dungeon. Mana has way more health, more damage, and doesn't have a gimmick that automatically misses you for free. This is why I bought those ice chunks from earlier, since any free damage or turns are super helpful to get as much damage in as possible. This guy's fireball attack isn't too bad, since 2/3 of my party resists it, but physical attacks are absolutely brutal from him. If he were to target a single party member with both of his attack slots, they'd probably instantly die. Luckily, that doesn't happen. Unluckily, the dragon mauls Stroll with a crit, instantly dealing more than his max health and damage. Thankfully, I learned from my mistakes and bring revival items, so the rest of the fight goes relatively smoothly. We send the dragon packing, and he leaves behind a couple miscellaneous sellables, along with the best weapon in the game for this point, Dragon's Indignation. Right now, it's nothing special, it just has a lot of attack power. However, when we purify it at the church, it gives its wielder +3 to strength, and changes the basic attack affinity to fire. This means that I effectively have a fire-based physical attack on Stroll for free. Safe to say, it'll be essential if I want to be as efficient as possible in the cathedral. Uh-oh, the dragon's back. He tries to kill us, but since I have the ability to run, it's not that hard to escape before we die a horrible death. But with that, we're out of the cave, and we can begin heading back to Grand Trad. We make it to the Grand Trad unnoticed, and are directed to head to the Hush Honeybee Inn. It's tucked back into the corner of San Lumio Street, but it's not that hard to find. Upon entry, we're met with Fabian and Grias' kid, Maria. We introduce ourselves and then head upstairs to discuss plans with Grias before we head off to bed. Turns out, Grias just plans on going apeshit on Luis during the royal funeral. Not exactly the wisest of plans, but I'll let him cook. He asks me if I could check up on Maria before we go to bed, and that leads us to reading to her for a while. We promise that everything will be alright, blatant lies, and unlock her bond. The archetype you get from Maria's bond is excellent, since tons of the enemies in Cathedral are weak to light, and it has one of the highest magic stats of any archetype. I'll definitely be swapping between it and Mage for the time being. We head off to get a good night's sleep before the royal funeral, and I think this would be a good stopping point for this video. Did I just end it before a very intense story section? Yes. If this video gets a decent amount of views and likes, I'll definitely release a much longer part 2 in the next few weeks. As of right now though, I think you'll just have to comment how angry you are at me for leaving you all off with such a cliffhanger. And that's it. Thanks for watching till the end. As I said earlier, I'm unsure as to what I want to do with this channel right now, so feel free to leave any suggestions or feedback for me. I'll try to respond to as many people as I can, if this video even gets comments. Well, I'll see you all next time. Have an amazing day. Peace.